Welcome to 365 Language Planet. This is Let's Speak English and Nihongo, episode 20. The theme of this episode is smartphones, good or bad? Before we start, let's check this month's 365 language stars and planets. So far this month, we have 6 stars: Charming, Kanmama, Takanona, K Workshop, Hiro T, and A Highbridge. Way to go! And we have 4 planets: Y-O, Tetsudo, Takesh, and Hiromi Okada. Nice job! To become a 365 language planet, all you need to do is share an idea in the chat or in the comments. So, let's begin. First, let's do speed training. So I'll say a phrase in Japanese from the video 基本的な英会話の役立つフレーズ number 3 and give you 1 minute to write the phrase in English. The first phrase is 映画を見たい気分です。あなたはどうですか? So now you have 1 minute to try to write this phrase in English in the chat or in the comments. How do you say 映画を見たい気分です。あなたはどうですか? If you have an idea, please share it in the chat or in the comments. 映画を見たい気分です。あなたはどうですか? Any idea how to say this in English? Yeah, or German or Spanish, it's okay too. All right, K Workshop, nice idea. Thank you for joining tonight's show. All right. If you have an idea, please continue and write. You can share your idea anytime during the show or after the show. All right. So my answer is I feel like watching a movie. How about you? Yeah. All right. Takanona says I feel like watching a movie. How about you? Nice. Thank you, Takanona, for joining tonight's show. Great idea. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Nice idea. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's move on to the next phrase. Oh, Kan Mama. It's got an idea. I feel like watching movies. How about you? Nice idea. Thank you for joining tonight's show. Takesh says, I'm in the mood for a movie. How about you? Nice idea. Thank you for joining tonight's show, Takesh. Okay, well, let's move on to the next phrase. So, how do you say どんな映画が好きですか in English? You have 1 minute. Oh, Grandma K, thank you for joining tonight's show. Nice. I'm feeling like watching movies. How about you? That's great. Nice idea. Okay, so you have 1 minute. How do you say どんな映画が好きですか? All right, K Workshop. Nice idea. Nice idea, Takanona. Nice idea, Takesh. Oh, Hiro T. Thank you for joining tonight's show. Mama. Nice idea. I think, Sunday night might be a good night to watch a movie, as is Saturday. Saturdays are nice days too. All right, and so my answer is, what kind of movie do you like? Um, but what kind of movies do you like is okay too. Nice idea, Grandma Kay. That's great. Okay, so let's move on to the last phrase of tonight's speed training, which is action eiga wa suki desu ka? How do you say this phrase in English? You have 1 minute. Action eiga wa suki desu ka? How do you say this phrase in English? Please let me know in the chat or in the comments. Action eiga wa suki desu ka? All right, K Workshop, nice idea. All right, Takanona, nice idea. And Kan Mama, nice idea. Okay. Oh, wow, nice idea. Hiroti, nice idea. And Grandma K, nice idea. Okay, I think everyone's perfect. The answer is, do you like action movies? Okay, great job. All right, so in the next speed training, I will use phrases from the videos I'll probably publish on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time. So if you have a chance, please check out those videos before our next show. Now, let's talk about the theme of tonight's show, which is smartphones, good or bad? All right, the first question of tonight's show is, what do you like about smartphones? I'll set the timer for 4 minutes. Okay. Oh, and sorry, and well, before that, in Japanese, smartphone no nani ga suki desu ka? So now, please write your answer in the chat or in the comments. チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください。All right, you have 4 minutes. 4分間あります。What do you like about smartphones? スマートフォンの何が好きですか? So you might like many things, and whatever you like, you can, share. What do you like about smartphones? スマートフォンの何が好きですか? I know as a language learner, I think one of my favorite things about smartphones is the language learning apps. I love using Duolingo. How about you? What do you like about smartphones? Please let me know in the chat or in the comments. チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください。What do you like about smartphones? One of my favorite things about smartphones is the language learning app Duolingo. How about you? All right, Takesh says, I like smartphone because it is convenient to look up English conversation phrases quickly. I think so too. Yes, yeah, I think smartphones are very convenient to look up, phrases. And I often, for me, sometimes I kind of wonder, what's the difference between this word and this word? And so I often check, you know, like, this word versus this word, to see, kind of to try to learn, like, what's, how are they different, or how are they similar? So yeah, that's very, very convenient, very fun. All right, Hiroti says, it's convenient to be able to check something whenever I want. Very true. That's true. Takanora says, I like the fact that I can quickly look up what I want to know. Me too. Me too. Grandma K says, I can easily find out things I don't understand. Nice idea. Yes, I agree. That's very useful. Very good point. I think, for me, I use my smartphone to make a lot of the images for my live shows, my YouTube videos, and so yeah, it is very useful for that too. All right, well, if you're still typing, please continue, and you can share your ideas anytime during or after the show. All right, now please write a new question in the chat or in the comments. 今、チャットまたはコメントに新しい質問を書いてください. You have 4 minutes. All right, so you can write a new question about smartphones. You can write a new question by changing my question, or you could write a completely new question in the chat or in the comments. Let's enjoy using languages. So my question was, what do you like about smartphones? But now you can write a new question in the chat or in the comments. 今、チャットまたはコメントに新しい質問を書きます. All right, so Takesh says, what functions of a smartphone do you find useful? Great question, Takesh. Well, many of the functions I find useful. For example, the alarms and the timers, voice recorder, camera, and applications, running applications like for jogging or for making pictures, making images. So yeah, I find many functions of a smartphone useful. How about you, Takesh? What do you find useful on your phone? Please let me know. Good evening if you're just joining the show. In this section, you can write a new question in the chat or in the comments. 今、チャットまたはコメントに新しい質問を書いてください. All right, Hiroti says, what do you like about teaching English? Great question. What do I like about teaching English? I like many things about teaching English, but I think maybe one of the things I love the most about teaching English is when I teach. 'Cause I've been teaching English for over 15 years, so a pretty long time. But once in a while, I will teach students some new, like a new sentence or vocabulary that I've never taught before. And so for me, I feel like whenever I teach an English phrase or sentence for the first time, it's very exciting, and I I feel very happy. And I love when students use interesting phrases as well. All right, K Workshop says smartphone is convenient, but sometimes I think it's too small. How about you? Nice idea, K Workshop. Yeah, I think so too, but it's okay. It's okay. For me, if a smartphone was bigger, I might use it even more, and so I'm kind of happy it's kind of small. All right, Takanona says, what do you think about beer gardens? Great question. Now, that's a tough question because beer gardens are different from country to country or even maybe city to city. So, beer gardens, uh, there's some beer gardens in Japan where you can pay and you can drink from like maybe 5 to 9 p.m. as much as you want. I love those beer gardens, but in America, you have to pay for each drink. And I don't like those kinds of beer gardens. So, great question, Takanona. All right, well, let's move on to the second question of tonight's show, which is my smartphone is very useful, but I feel like I check it too often these days. How about you? 日本語で私のスマートフォンはとても便利なのですが、最近はチェックしすぎている気がします。あなたはどうですか? Now, please write your answer in the chat or in the comments. チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください。Okay, so my smartphone is very useful, but I feel like I check it too often these days. How about you? Please write your answer in the chat or in the comments. 私のスマートフォンはとても便利なのですが、最近はチェックしすぎている気がします。あなたはどうですか? チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください。Recently, one of my good friends, if you watched this show, you would have seen maybe 2 weeks ago, my friend Eddie came to Japan and visited, and sometimes he would post information about his trip on Facebook. So I started checking Facebook again more often, and of course I check YouTube, and recently sometimes I check Instagram, and I check YouTube, of course. And so I was like, I feel like I've been checking my phone too often, and it's been making me tired. But how about you? Do you feel like you are checking your phone too much these days, or maybe not? Maybe you're fine, no problem. Please let me know. All right, K Workshop says, I agree with you. We don't need to check so often. Yes, I agree. And of course, I often check the news too, news websites. All right, Kamama says, I always watching YouTube and Instagram, so I'm a little tired. Yes, I love checking YouTube as well, especially about like my favorite TV show. So this new show on Disney Plus called Andor, and it's kind of a Star Wars TV series, but it's It's a great TV series, and people have been making lots of YouTube videos about the TV series that I've been watching. So I love to check those videos, but not anymore. I'm trying to take a break. No more. But how about you? Do you feel like you check your smartphone too often these days? Please let me know in the chat or in the comments. Takesh says, me too. I think I've been checking X and Instagram too much these days. Yeah. You know, it's a good point and bad point about iPhones. The good point is they're so easy to use. The bad point is, you can use it too much sometimes. All right, Takanona says, the only time I use my smartphone is to practice Duolingo. That's a good habit. Nice idea, Takanona. T says, I feel the same way. Sometimes I find myself watching my smartphone for hours. Yeah, me too. Especially in the evening. Daytime, I try to rest and I try to work. But in the evening, I sometimes find myself looking at my phone for hours. So it's crazy. Very interesting. Okay, so now please write a new question in the chat or in the comments. You have 4 minutes. 4分間あります. You can write a new question in the chat or in the comments. Grandma K says, I can't let it go like a pacemaker. Oh, it's funny. But I think, it's okay. Yeah, no problem. We will talk about this issue more. But yeah, they are so useful. So it's tough to let them go. Okay, so now let's try to write a new question in the chat or in the comments. 今、チャットまたはコメントに新しい質問を書いて試してみましょう。So, smartphones use applications. We can talk about the applications on a smartphone. All right, Hiromi Okada, thank you for joining tonight's show. Good evening, me too. I check my cell phone too long time, so I always had a stiff neck. Sigh. Oh no. So sorry to hear that. K Workshop says, how many hours do you usually use your phone? Great question. I think, for me, I think I use my phone about 3 hours a day, usually. How about you, K Workshop? I know it's kind of crazy, but I think I use my phone about 3 hours a day on average. How about you, K Workshop? The crazy thing is, sometimes I don't know, I use my phone, so I don't know how they count and how they talk, how they, decide, how much time you use it. But sometimes, just listening to music, maybe that counts as using your phone. Takanona says, I think May is the month when beer tastes the best in the year. What about you? Could be. Tough question because beer tastes good a lot of the time of the year. But maybe, I don't know. I feel like, in Guma, it's so humid. And so, I don't know. I feel like I've been feeling pretty tired this month. Good point, Takanona. K Workshop says, I use my phone for about 2 hours. Let's see. Takesh says, I think we should all do a digital detox from time to time. How about you? Good point. Yeah, I think so too. K Workshop says, it's almost waste of time. Oh no. I hope not. I hope not. Not always. But I know. It's it's tough. Life is always yeah, it's always comparative. Um, you might be wasting a little time using a phone, but you could be wasting your time even more doing something else. And so, who knows? Kind of complicated, right? All right. Well, if you're still typing, please feel free to continue typing and you can share your idea anytime during the show or after the show. Okay, but now let's move on to the last question of tonight's show, which is, Grandma Kay says, which company's phone is it easy to use for you? Great question. I've only used Apple, so I don't know other companies' phones. How about you, Grandma Kay? All right, so tonight's last question is, do you have any advice for people who check their smartphones too often, like me? 日本語でスマートフォンを頻繁にチェックする人に何かアドバイスはありますか? All right. Please write your answer in the chat or in the comments. チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください. You have 4 minutes. Okay, and the question was, do you have any advice for people who check their smartphones too often? Please write your answer in the chat or in the comments. スマートフォンを頻繁にチェックする人に何かアドバイスはありますか? チャットまたはコメントに答えを書いてください. I think Takesh was, talking about doing a digital detox, which I think is a great idea. Okay, hey, hi, Bridge. Thank you for joining tonight's show. The problem is that I can't let it go. I know. Me too sometimes. Me too. And so, humans love information. And so, it's like our brains are like designed to get, try to get more information. And so it's very difficult to let it go. But my advice is, I think it's a good idea to meditate every morning before using your phone. That's my advice. I think it's a good idea to meditate every morning before using your phone. And by meditate, I mean just, lay in bed and do nothing. As my students might know, I always say DNT, do nothing time. So I try to have some DNT. And some mornings I don't. Some mornings I get up and I don't take any DNT. I don't meditate, and then it's very, it's very difficult to not check my phone too often. But how about you? Do you have any advice for people who check their smartphones too often? Takesh was saying about the digital detox. It sounds like a good idea. I would say for me, I often check my phone too much in the evening. So that's a big issue for me. Do you have any advice for people who check their smartphones too often in the evening? A new question. think, maybe another, some other advice might be to, like, you know, yeah, like Takeshi said, people say the digital detox. All right, Grandma K says, be careful of dry eyes from staring too much like me. Yeah, I think so too, especially in the morning. Like in the morning, my eyes get more dry when I look at uh, my smartphone. So, all right, K Workshop says, how about turning it off for a little time? Sometimes. That sounds like a great idea. Kind of, like Takeshi was saying, the digital detox. So, like, yeah, turning off your phone, turning off all your devices. All right, Takeshi says we should not immediately look everything up on smartphones. We should think for ourselves first. Good idea. Sounds like a very good habit to make. Nice idea. All right. Well, Takanona says exercise and get tired so you can go to bed right away. Nice idea. Okay, well, let's move on to the last section of tonight's show. So now, please write a new question in the chat or in the comments. チャットまたはコメントに新しい質問を書いてください. You have 4 minutes. This is the last section of tonight's show. You can write a new question in the chat or in the comments. As always, you can write a question about smartphones. You can write a question by changing my question, or you can write a completely new question. It's up to you. Please do whatever you want to do. Tonight, I wrote I wrote 2 questions in English. So I feel like I should write 1 question in Japanese tonight. All right, I'm going to try to write a question in Japanese. All right. Hiromi Okada says, I need such advices for me instead of giving them. Hey, no problem, Hiromi Okada. It's good to think about it and share. No problem. Okay, so 一番好きなアプリは何ですか? All right, Hiro T says, do you think we could go back to a world without smartphones? Great question. Maybe, but I think the smartphone is so useful for language learning that I don't want to go back to a world without smartphones. How about you, Hiroti? All right. As you saw my question, I said, what is your favorite application? All right, Takanona says, when I drink alcohol, I get sleepy and can't do what I want to do. Can you give me some advice? Great question. Great question. Tough question. But I feel the same way sometimes. And so, yeah, I think, I would say, generally speaking, it's probably, best to not drink until after 7 p.m. I think after 7 p.m. is, kind of a good time to relax and kind of kind of enjoy the evening time. So, before 7 p.m., I try to be very productive and I do a lot of lessons and preparation. But after 7 p.m. is usually more of a happy, easygoing time. So, yeah, I think, it's good to try to separate. You got your drinking time is your kind of happy, easygoing time, and your, non-drinking time is your kind of very focused and very productive time. So, no, I think, Takanona, it's okay. I would just try to be careful and to separate those two. I think my pleasure, Takanona, no problem. This says, how to fix the symptoms of smartphone addiction? Great question. Well, the smartphone addiction is kind of the same as like a dopamine addiction. And so, personally, I think the best way to fix the smartphone addiction is just to, kind of meditate, relax, close your eyes and do nothing. And by doing that, you kind of start to control your mind more, and then you can decide, after you meditate, so easier to decide, I want to do this, or I want to do this. And so you have more control of your mind. But if you don't meditate, then it's very difficult, and you're kind of just going to kind of a dopamine wheel, like a hamster going around the wheel. So I think I definitely recommend taking a break and doing some little meditation is a big help. Okay, so nice idea, Takesh. All right, well, that's the end of tonight's show. Thank you so much for studying and using English and Japanese with me tonight. We have this show every Sunday. Let's speak English and Japanese live at 8:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and give the show a big thumbs up. I hope everyone has a great evening, and I'll see you next time. また近いうちに会いましょう. So have a great night, and I look forward to studying with you again soon. So take care.